gentle turn of the stone staircase whispers beneath invisible steps, guiding us ever higher, away from the distant hum of the castle, into a haven of profound stillness. As you ascend, feel the quietude deepen, a soft blanket of peace settling around you, easing any remaining tension from your shoulders, from your brow. Imagine the slight shift in the air as we reach the top, a noticeable warmth, rich with the scent of ancient wood, old parchment, and a faint, sweet hint of something undefinable, like forgotten spells and quiet triumphs. Before us, the heavy oak door of Dumbledore's office stands slightly ajar, inviting us into its secluded embrace. There is no urgency, no need to rush. Simply allow your senses to gently awaken to the subtle changes. Through the narrow opening, a deep, comforting glow spills out, not harsh or bright, but a soft, buttery amber that bathes the entrance in a constant, soothing light. This is not the flicker of a common torch, nor the stark gleam of moonlight, but a deeper, more magical illumination, as if the very air inside is imbued with a perpetual, gentle twilight. Step closer if you like, or simply rest where you are, breathing in this serene quiet. Notice how the shadows here are not sharp or forbidding, but soft and deep, like velvet drapes gathered in the corners of an enchanted room. They cradle the countless books and curious instruments, hinting at hidden wonders without revealing them too starkly, preserving the mystery and enhancing the sense of undisturbed peace. This warm, golden light seems to slow time itself, encouraging a sigh of contentment, a release into the profound tranquility of one of Hogwarts' most protected spaces. Feel your breath deepen naturally, your heart rate ease, as you soak in the initial embrace of this extraordinary sanctuary. Allow your senses to carry you further inside, drawn by the gentle heat that permeates this chamber. The air here feels almost tangible, a soft caress against your skin, infused with a comforting weight of centuries of quiet magic. Your gaze might drift across the towering bookshelves, their leather-bound volumes standing silent sentinel, each spine a testament to forgotten lore, yet contributing to the peaceful atmosphere rather than disrupting it. Between the shelves, intricately carved wooden cabinets and peculiar, humming instruments catch the light, not with a harsh reflection, but with a muted inner luminescence. A warm, flickering glow emanates from a distant fireplace, its flames dancing softly, casting slow, shifting patterns of light and shadow on the high, arched ceiling. The gentle crackle is barely audible, a subtle rhythm that perfectly complements the stillness, like the quiet breath of the castle itself. It's a sound that grounds you, reminding you of warmth and shelter, of ancient stones holding fast against the night. The light from the hearth marries seamlessly with the ambient magical glow, creating a symphony of soft illumination that invites quiet contemplation. And then your eyes might gently settle upon a particular corner of the room, a place where the warmth seems to gather, where the light is purest. A soft golden core within the amber embrace, perched quietly there on a stand of polished wood, is a creature of unimaginable beauty and grace. Not yet fully revealed, but a distinct, still presence, radiating a serene energy that feels both powerful and utterly tranquil. This is the heart of the office's profound peace, a living ember of quietude. Here, by the quiet perch, is where the office's deep peace truly crystallizes. The phoenix, Fawkes, rests in a magnificent, regal stillness, his head tucked gently beneath a wing, a posture of perfect repose. His feathers, a vibrant tapestry of scarlet and gold, do not overtly shimmer, but hold within them a deep, inner glow, like embers banked for the night. This soft, pulsating luminescence is almost imperceptible, a gentle, living light that seems to breathe with him, a quiet heartbeat in the tranquil chamber. Each gentle breath Fawkes takes is barely a ripple in the profound quiet, a rhythmic rise and fall of his magnificent chest that you can almost feel rather than hear. It's a natural, calming rhythm, perfectly attuned to the slow, steady pace of a deep, restful night. Around him, the air feels particularly serene, charged with an ancient, comforting magic that seems to radiate from his very being. This is not the grand, fiery display of resurrection, but the profound, healing peace of a creature at perfect rest. As you observe this magnificent, sleeping guardian, feel the last vestiges of any lingering wakefulness melt away. The subtle warmth, the enduring quiet, and the gentle, living glow of Fawkes create a cocoon of absolute serenity. The worries of the day, like distant echoes, fade into the soft, deep shadows of the office. There is only this moment, this quiet perch, this warm night, and the promise of undisturbed rest. Allow yourself to be entirely enveloped by this profound sense of peace, letting the soft magic of the phoenix guide you deeper into slumber. As the castle settles completely into its slumber around you, this space, imbued with wisdom and gentle power, holds you safe, held in the quiet light of Fawkes'S enduring grace. Your gaze, drawn by an irresistible pull, finally settles upon the magnificent phoenix. Fawkes, a living tapestry of vibrant crimson and burnished gold, rests within regal stillness upon his ornate golden perch. His feathers, each one a miniature flame, shimmer with an inner light that seems to pulse in harmony with your own gentle breath. They ripple softly, catching the ambient glow from the fireplace and the moon, transforming it into 1,000 tiny, shifting embers. A deep, calming warmth emanates from his very being, permeating the air around him, a silent guardian against the cool touch of the night. This is not a heat that burns, but one that enfolds, like a silken cloak woven from sunshine and quiet magic, a barely perceptible rise and fall of his chest signifies his gentle, dreamless sleep. A rhythm so soft it barely disturbs the stillness. It's a quiet breath, a delicate sigh woven into the very fabric of the tranquil night. Occasionally, a single feather at the tip of his outstretched wing might subtly shift, catching a glint of light, a minuscule tremor that only deepens the sense of profound rest that surrounds him. The air around Fawkes seems to hum with a subtle, sympathetic magic, not a loud thrum, but a soft, almost imperceptible vibration that resonates with the ancient artifacts scattered throughout the office. It's as if the very dust motes dancing in the gentle light are imbued with a quiet energy, moving in slow, languid patterns around his warm, still form. The stillness is not an emptiness, but a fullness, rich with unseen currents of magic attached to the polished golden perch. Delicate, almost invisible chains of a similar glimmering metal are barely visible, securing it gently to the sturdy stand. These chains, far from being restrictive, merely serve as ornate, decorative anchors, catching the soft, flickering light from the distant hearth and scattering tiny, almost imperceptible sparks of gold onto the dark wood beneath. The polished wood of the stand itself seems to drink in Fawkes'S radiant heat, exuding a faint, comforting scent of ancient cedar warmed by magic. It is here, at the base of his perch, that the office's collection of peculiar instruments and books seem to converge, almost leaning in, as if drawing quiet sustenance from his tranquil energy. A silver Hourglass, usually restless, remains perfectly still, its smoky surface reflecting only the soft, ambient glow of the room, mirroring the profound peace. The magic, so gentle and deep, seemed to awaken the dormant enchantments within the office itself. A silver instrument, delicate and intricate, resting on a small, polished table near Fawkes'S perch, began a slow, almost imperceptible rotation. Its numerous tiny gears, usually motionless in the quiet of the night, now turned with a whisper-soft click, a sound so faint it was more a feeling than an audible noise. The instrument, a celestial orrery, continued its languid dance, mirroring the silent spin of the heavenly bodies it represented. Each tiny planet and star, crafted from shimmering metals and polished gemstones, caught the ambient light, sending fleeting, almost invisible sparks across the dark wood of the table. It was a testament to the office's ancient, living magic, a response to the powerful, yet peaceful, presence of the phoenix. This subtle activity extended beyond the immediate vicinity of the sleeping phoenix. Across the vast, circular room, on towering shelves that reached almost to the ceiling, ancient tomes lay stacked in precise, comforting order as the soft, sympathetic magic rippled outward from Fawkes. A faint, almost imperceptible glow emanated from the gilded spines of some of these ancient books. It was not a brilliant flash, but a deep, internal luminescence, as if the stories and spells within were breathing a gentle light into the quiet air. The soft gleam danced over the aged leather, highlighting the intricate, embossed patterns and the faded titles, secrets whispered in gold and silver. Dust motes, suspended in the gentle currents of magic, caught this fleeting light, transforming into tiny, dancing constellations against the shadowy backdrop of the shelves. The very air itself, rich with the scent of aged parchment, faint lavender, and a whisper of phoenix magic, seemed to grow thicker, softer, and more enveloping. It was a silence so profound it felt protective, a cocoon woven from the ancient stones of Hogwarts and the gentle, radiating warmth of Fawkes'S. Outside, the castle might hum with the distant creaks of settling stone or the murmur of a passing breeze through a high window. But within this office, all external sounds seemed to melt away, absorbed by the deep quietude. Even the soft ticking of a myriad of strange, intricate clockwork devices on Dumbledore's many tables seemed to mute, their movements becoming graceful, silent ballets of gears and springs. The only sound, if one truly strained to hear it, was the incredibly subtle, soft sigh of Fawkes'S breath, a rhythmic whisper that resonated more within the heart than the ear. It was the sound of perfect peace, a melody without notes, a profound feeling of safety that settled over the entire space. As the magic continued its gentle unfurling, its subtle power reached the surface of Dumbledore's vast, moon-silvered desk. There, the Pensieve, usually a still pool of memory, began to respond. A faint, internal luminescence pulsed from its milky depths, casting soft, undulating shadows across the carved wood. It was not a vivid display, but a deep, quiet breath of light, as if ancient thoughts within were stirring softly in their sleep. The surface of the stone basin seemed to ripple with unseen currents, like water disturbed by an unseen feather. Yet it remained perfectly still to the touch. This delicate play of light and shadow mirrored the quiet dance of the celestial orrery, adding another layer to the office's soft, magical awakenings. The soft pulse from the Pensieve seemed to send a quiet resonance through the very air of the office. Up on the walls, among the many slumbering portraits of past headmasters and headmistresses, a subtle change began to manifest. Their painted eyes, usually closed in peaceful sleep, seemed to possess an even deeper sense of repose, and the colors of their robes, the faint gold of their spectacles, appeared to deepen in hue, as if absorbing the ambient magic. No one stirred, no painted figure shifted in their frame, but the quiet presence of their ancient magic, now gently stirred, seemed to add to the overall sense of protection and peace that settled over the room. It was a silent conversation between the castle's spirit and its painted guardians, observed only by the sleeping office. This deepening sense of quiet magic was accompanied by an almost palpable warmth that permeated the very stones of the office. It was not the heat of a roaring fire, but a gentle, steady embrace, like a soft, invisible blanket woven from starlight and phoenix song. This warmth seemed to emanate most strongly from Fawkes'S quiet perch, a comforting wave that washed over the polished floorboards, climbed the towering shelves, and softened the edges of every magical device. It invited a profound sense of safety and calm, a feeling that no harm could ever touch this peaceful sanctuary. The air itself felt thicker, imbued with a benevolent energy that promised deep, restorative rest, making the vast office feel surprisingly intimate and protective. The quiet resonance, once a subtle hum from the Pensieve, now gently extended its reach, enveloping the entire office in a cocoon of warmth that seemed to emanate from unseen sources. This wasn't the heat of a crackling fire, but a soft, pervasive glow, like sunlight filtered through ancient, stained glass on a summer afternoon. Long after the sun itself has set, it seemed to gather around Fawkes'S golden perch, a beautiful, intricately carved stand of polished rosewood, where the magnificent phoenix was settled, a silent guardian of the headmaster's slumbering chamber. The air around his perch shimmered almost imperceptibly, hinting at the powerful, protective magic held within his very being. Each feather, a tiny flame in repose, absorbed the ambient glow, making his form appear like a warm, living ember, radiating a deep, comforting heat without any actual fire. This gentle warmth seemed to lull the air itself, smoothing away any lingering tension, inviting a deeper sense of peace into the already serene space. As the office drifted deeper into its enchanted slumber, a single, minuscule feather on Fawkes'S chest seemed to stir, not from movement, but from the slight intake of a breath so gentle it was barely there. It was a silent, slow expansion, as if the very air surrounding him was exhaling, a long, soft sigh of contentment. The light that bathed him seemed to deepen its hue in response, turning his gold a richer, older shade, and the crimson of his tail feathers a more profound, velvety red, like the last embers of a perfectly contained fire. No sound accompanied this subtle change, only a quiet strengthening of the peaceful aura that now completely filled the room. This quiescent moment, a testament to the phoenix's ancient serenity, folded seamlessly into the magic of the sleeping office, adding another layer of protective comfort. The warmth from his perch spread softly, like a lullaby woven from light, touching the leather-bound books and the enchanted instruments alike, ensuring that every corner of the headmaster's study was cradled in absolute, undisturbed peace. The quiet strengthening of Fawkes'S serene aura stretched beyond his immediate perch, reaching towards the various fascinating objects that filled Dumbledore's office. One such object, the ancient, battered sorting hat, sat upon a high shelf, normally a silent sentinel of Hogwarts history. Tonight, however, it seemed to absorb the gentle, ambient warmth radiating from the phoenix. The aged leather of the hat, usually stiff and still, softened imperceptibly, as if warmed by a distant hearth. A faint, almost imaginary scent of old parchment and forgotten magic seemed to emanate from its brim, mingling with the subtle, clean scent of the office, creating a comforting aroma that cradled the still air. Not far from the hat, a delicate silver instrument, a moon dial designed to track the lunar cycles, began a slow, silent turn. Its finely etched hands, usually static unless touched by magical intention, now moved with an almost glacial pace, not aligning with the moon's actual progress, but rather seeming to respond to the deep, harmonious calm that permeated the room. Each tiny cog and gear, usually hidden beneath its polished surface, seemed to hum with an unheard vibration, a sympathetic resonance with the ancient magic of Fawkes. The gentle rotation was barely visible, a testament to the profound stillness that had settled. Yet it was a definite, quiet progression, marking time in a way only possible within the deeply enchanted confines of Hogwarts. The quiet spread further, wrapping around the towering bookshelves that lined the walls. The myriad of leather-bound volumes, some ancient and others more recently acquired, seemed to settle deeper into their wooden frames. The spines, gold embossed and faded, seemed to exhale a collective, silent breath, releasing the faint, comforting scent of old paper and forgotten spells into the now utterly tranquil air. The very dust motes, previously dancing lazily in stray light beams, seemed to suspend themselves, holding still in the profound peace. The room, from its smallest detail to its grandest fixture, surrendered to the deep, protective magic, becoming a sanctuary of absolute, unwavering quiet. The profound stillness didn't halt there. Its gentle influence flowed like an unseen current towards the large, shallow stone basin nestled on Dumbledore's desk. The Pensieve, usually its silvery, swirling contents held fragments of memories, sometimes agitated, sometimes still. But tonight, under the pervasive, protective calm radiating from Fawkes'S perch, the Pensieve's surface seemed to smooth further. The shimmering mist within it settled into a profound, almost glassy tranquility, reflecting the soft, warm light of the office with a new, ethereal clarity. Any faint, lingering wisps of past thoughts or emotions seemed to dissolve, leaving behind a pool of pure, luminous peace. Small, almost imperceptible ripples, like the breath of a sleeping cat, would occasionally grace its surface, creating patterns of light that danced and then dissolved, a silent, soothing ballet within the ancient stone. Nearby, perched on a slender, enchanted stand, was the Fawkes'S. Ordinarily, this magical mirror would cloud and swirl with shadowy figures, indicating approaching threats to the castle or its inhabitants. Tonight, however, it remained utterly clear, its polished surface reflecting only the gentle, unmoving stillness of the room. Instead of looming dangers, the glass presented a soft, slightly distorted image of the office's quiet interior. The warm glow from Fawkes'S perch, the rows of sleeping books, and the gentle, almost imperceptible sway of a distant, enchanted pendulum clock. No swirling shadows, no menacing forms disturbed its glassy depths, only a profound, reflective calm, a testament to the absolute safety and deep peace that Dumbledore's office now held, cradled in Fawkes'S protective aura. It was as if the glass itself had been soothed, its inherent purpose temporarily lulled into a state of serene dormancy. Even the grandest enchantment in the office, the starry ceiling, seemed to deepen its display in response to the palpable peace. The countless celestial bodies, usually a dazzling replica of the night sky above Hogwarts, now shimmered with an even softer, more profound brilliance. Each star, from the brightest nebula to the most distant, faint twinkle, pulsed with a gentle, rhythmic glow, almost like a slow, communal heartbeat. The constellations, usually fixed in their cosmic dance, seemed to hold their breath in quiet reverence, their patterns becoming clearer, yet less sharp, softened at the edges as if viewed through a comforting haze. A faint, almost musical hum, too low to be truly heard, vibrated through the air, resonating from the illusionary heavens, a harmonious chord struck by the profound, ancient magic of the castle and the serenely watchful phoenix. The entire celestial dome above felt like a vast, protective blanket, drawn softly over the entire office, inviting deep, untroubled slumber. The quietude in Dumbledore's office deepened, drawing the gaze towards the majestic phoenix, Fawkes, upon his ornate golden perch. A soft, almost imperceptible shift rippled through his brilliant scarlet and gold plumage. It wasn't a preening motion, but rather the gentle settling of each feather, adjusting to the profound stillness that had embraced the room. A single, long, silken tail feather, tipped with fiery gold, slowly rotated a fraction of an inch, catching the ambient glow from unseen, enchanted light sources. This subtle movement, graceful and unhurried, radiated a profound sense of inner peace, a living anchor for the office's serene atmosphere, gently lulling the very air around it into a state of contented rest. Near Fawkes'S perch, an ancient orrery, usually a symphony of subtle whirs and clicks, now moved with an almost dreamlike slowness. Its intricate, polished brass gears, each one a miniature work of magical engineering, turned with a deliberate, gentle grace. The tiny, enchanted planets, orbiting their central sun in exquisite, silent dance, cast faint, shifting shadows across the dusty surface of the nearby desk. Each rotation was so languid, so unhurried, that it seemed to embody the very essence of time slowing down, creating a comforting, rhythmic visual hum rather than a sound, perfectly attuned to the peaceful slumber that had enveloped the entire space. The air in the office itself seemed to hold a gentle, almost imperceptible hum, a resonance that wasn't sound, but rather a deep, comforting vibration of ancient magic at rest. It was the quiet breath of the castle itself, felt rather than heard. Every now and then, a distant, soft tick from the grand, enchanted pendulum clock, far off in the shadows, would punctuate the stillness, a barely there whisper of time passing. But even this subtle sound seemed cushioned, absorbed by the warm, protective aura emanating from Fawkes, ensuring that only the most soothing sensations could ripple through the space, guiding everything towards profound and tranquil sleep. The air itself, imbued with Fawkes'S gentle magic, felt warmer now, a palpable, comforting presence that softened the edges of the ancient room. Tiny, almost invisible motes of dust, suspended in the still air, caught the ambient light, not dancing, but drifting with an unhurried grace. They appeared like microscopic, slow-motion constellations, silently orbiting unseen celestial bodies in the quietude, each one a tiny, shimmering whisper of the castle's long history, slowly settling towards a contented rest. From a nearby, slightly recessed alcove, the Pensieve, usually a basin of swirling thought, now held a glassy, tranquil surface. Its silvery depths reflected the room's gentle illumination, but instead of dynamic memories, only a profound, reflective calm emanated from within. A faint, almost imperceptible glow pulsed from its depths, a steady, soft heartbeat of collected quietude, casting gentle, diffused light onto the worn stone walls surrounding it. It was a beacon of stillness, absorbing rather looking outward, mirroring the deep peace that Dumbledore's office now cradled in Fawkes'S protective aura. A faint, almost ethereal scent now threaded itself through the soft warmth of the air, a delicate blend of ancient parchment, the subtle, clean notes of phoenix magic, and a whisper of warm, spiced tea, as if conjured by the memory of a cozy evening. This gentle aroma, barely there yet deeply comforting, settled around the room like an invisible, soft blanket, inviting every lingering thought to quiet itself. It was the scent of safety, of deep history, and of undisturbed slumber, a final, tender lullaby for the senses within the silent walls of the headmaster's study. From Fawkes'S quiet perch, a faint, almost imperceptible warmth radiated outward, a gentle, living current that seemed to smooth any lingering edges of the room's ancient atmosphere. The phoenix, a silhouette of quiet grace, remained still, yet a single iridescent feather on his chest shimmered with a soft inner light. As if breathing in the serene silence, a tiny, vibrant ember of peace on a low, polished shelf near the Pensieve. A stack of worn, leather-bound books, usually silent sentinels of forgotten knowledge, now seemed to absorb the ambient warmth. Their faded gold lettering caught the diffused glow, softening their ancient spines, making them appear less like rigid texts and more like plump, contented cushions, holding stories wrapped in a gentle, somnolent embrace. Even the most intricate magical instruments scattered across Dumbledore's large desk. The delicate silver star charts, the humming divining rods, the elaborate, multifaceted crystal, had fallen into a deep, magical repose. Their usual subtle energies were muted, their faint, rhythmic pulses calmed to an almost imperceptible thrum, a collective sigh of quietude that deepened the castle's nocturnal peace, a soft, magical breathing from a subtly carved stand beside the well-worn armchair. A spherical crystal orb, not glass, but something far older, emanated this serene luminescence. It was not a harsh beam, but a soft, internal glow, a living light that seemed to breathe with the quiet rhythm of the room. Its light spilled over the aged wood of the desk, highlighting the intricate, dust-softened grain, before gently dissolving into the deeper shadows, a comforting beacon in the vastness of the office. The orb seemed to draw the light inward only to release it, softened and filtered into the surrounding space, bathing everything in a quiet, golden bath. No harsh edges or sharp glints remained, only a diffused, velvety brilliance that invited the eyes to gently close and the mind to slowly unwind. The very air itself within this sanctuary felt different, a tangible quality that was almost silken against the skin. It carried the faintest, most comforting aroma, not of strong perfumes or burning incense, but a delicate, layered scent. It was the whisper of ancient parchment and dormant magic, of polished wood and dust motes that had absorbed centuries of quiet wisdom. This subtle bouquet mingled with the faintest hint of something sweet, perhaps the lingering magic of a forgotten charm, or the quiet presence of Fawkes himself, a calming, almost imperceptible fragrance that deepened the room's serene embrace and seemed to encourage a soft, slow exhalation high above among the intricate, often puzzling collection of Dumbledore's instruments. A specific mechanism captured the eye, not with flashy movement, but with an almost imperceptible, profound slowness. Tiny, burnished silver gears, each one a miniature masterpiece of forgotten craft, turned with a deliberate, dreamlike grace. They moved not to measure time in hurried ticks, but in vast, patient arcs, their silent rotation creating a deep, resonant hum that was felt more than heard. This vibrational pulse seemed to echo the ancient heartbeat of the castle itself, a silent, soothing lullaby that permeated the very stone, gently nudging any lingering wakefulness towards a profound and peaceful sleep, as though the very mechanics of Hogwarts were settling down for the night. This gentle, subtle warmth and scent, a quiet breath of magic that permeated the very air, drew the eye inexorably toward the heart of this tranquil chamber. Fawkes, the phoenix, poised on his ancient, gnarled perch. The perch itself was a robust, dark wood stand, perhaps an ancient piece of petrified wood or a magically hardened metal, situated a respectful distance from Dumbledore's desk, allowing Fawkes his own serene space within the vast office. Its surface, smoothed by time and countless phoenix rests, bore subtle, almost imperceptible runic carvings, whispering of protective enchantments, barely visible under the soft, internal glow of the spherical crystal orb. Fawkes, a magnificent creature of myth and fire, was utterly still and profoundly serene in this hushed environment. His feathers, a vibrant spectrum of deep crimson and burnished gold in full light, appeared muted and incredibly soft under the gentle, diffused luminescence. The light didn't reflect off them in a harsh glare, but seemed to sink into their depths, making them shimmer with an internal, smoldering warmth that hinted at the dormant power within. As the office settled even deeper into its slumbering quiet, a very slight, deliberate movement rippled through Fawkes's stillness. With unhurried grace, he shifted his weight almost imperceptibly, his powerful form adjusting slightly on the perch, then extended his neck just a fraction to gently preen a single crimson feather on his breast. This delicate rearrangement created the faintest, most ephemeral whisper of sound, like rustling silk or the softest sigh of wind through ancient leaves, a natural, sleepy action that became another soft thread in the room's tapestry of silence. In this subtle shift, the details of his perch became even more apparent. The smooth, dark wood, or whatever ancient material it was crafted from, revealed areas worn slightly where his talons had rested for centuries, bearing a subtle sheen from his touch and the gentle passage of time. The stand itself was robust and firmly rooted to the ground, a testament to its long service as a foundational point of peace within the headmaster's chamber. Barely there whisper of Fawkes'S, feather settling back into place, seemed to echo the deepening quiet of the headmaster's office, not as a sound that broke the silence, but as one that embraced and intensified it, a profound warmth, not just from the embers in the distant hearth, but from the very presence of the phoenix, now gently permeated the air. This wasn't the heat of a roaring fire, but a soothing, internal radiance, as if the air itself had absorbed the benevolent energy of the ancient bird. It settled around the smooth wood of the perch, softening its edges, and seemed to hum with an almost imperceptible vibratory calm. The spherical crystal orb on Dumbledore's desk a silent guardian of secrets, caught this soft, spreading warmth, its internal glow appearing to deepen slightly, shifting from a cool luminescence to a richer, golden hue that danced subtly with the lingering traces of Fawkes'S fire magic. The scent in the room, too, had subtly transformed. No longer just the aged parchment and polished wood, it now carried the faintest, almost ethereal hint of phoenix ash, clean, sweet, and pure, a fragrance that spoke of renewal and deep, untroubled rest. It was a scent so delicate it seemed to breathe with the quiet movements of the night air, rising and falling in an ancient, comforting rhythm. This tranquil warmth seeped into every corner, inviting peace, pulling gently at the edges of consciousness, urging all anxieties to dissolve into the enveloping calm. The office, usually a hub of magical activity, was now a sanctuary of perfect stillness, its very walls seeming to exhale a sigh of deep contentment as the soothing warmth deepened. A quiet magic unfurled from Fawkes'S perch, weaving through the objects scattered across Dumbledore's grand desk and the surrounding chamber. The golden light from the crystal orb, now a tender, pervasive presence, washed over the intricate silver mechanisms of an enchanted clock, not illuminating them sharply, but coaxing a soft, burnished gleam from their surfaces. Each tiny gear and delicate hand seemed to hold its breath, caught in the timeless serenity. The heavy, leather-bound tomes stacked haphazardly on a nearby side table absorbed this gentle illumination, their ancient spines glowing with an inner warmth that hinted at the countless stories held within. Even the velvet cushions on the armchairs, usually a deep, rich crimson, now appeared muted and incredibly plush, inviting a profound comfort that seemed to extend an open invitation to rest. The light played across the familiar, whimsical instruments, a faux glass reflecting only peace, an eraser of bad memories completely still, painting them in shades of deep amber and soft shadow, softening their edges, stripping away any hint of the day's worries. Every artifact, every forgotten quill, every inkpot seemed to exhale a collective sigh of contentment, becoming part of the silent, magical lullaby that filled the office. This was a space where time itself seemed to slow to an almost imperceptible crawl, allowing the essence of quiet and magic to settle deep within the very fabric of the room, preparing it for a night of profound, dream-laden slumber. With the office steeped in such profound peace, the last whispers of the castle's day faded into the deep, warm night. Distant, muffled sounds, perhaps the faint hoot of an owl from the owlery, or the rustle of leaves against a high window pane, reached the ears only as the softest, most inconsequential echoes, like thoughts dissolving at the edge of sleep. They were not interruptions, but rather gentle confirmations of the world's quiet continuance, sounds that merely underscored the absolute tranquility within Dumbledore's chamber, Fawkes, now a silent, radiant presence on his perch, seemed to finally close his bright, intelligent eyes. Or perhaps they simply softened to an almost closed gaze, reflecting the deep contentment that had settled over him. His vibrant feathers, still pulsing with that internal, smoldering warmth, now appeared to deepen their hues, becoming richer, more profound, like glowing embers settling into themselves for the long night. The office held its breath, a vast, ancient space now completely at ease, a haven of gentle magic. It felt like being cradled within the oldest, safest heart of Hogwarts itself, protected and utterly secure. All that remained was the soft, rhythmic presence of one's own breathing, gently easing into the quiet, allowing the gentle currents of this magical night to carry away every thought, every worry, until only a deep, comforting stillness remained, guiding one softly into the welcoming arms of sleep. This was the peace of Hogwarts, profound and unwavering, a silent promise of restorative rest under the watchful, benign warmth of a phoenix. The source of this profound quiet, Fawkes, nestled serenely on his golden perch, stirred ever so slightly. A feather, tipped with the faintest glimmer of ember, seemed to exhale a breath of warmth, releasing an almost imperceptible tendril of golden light that shimmered briefly before dissolving into the pervasive glow. It was a gentle, internal pulse, a silent testament to the ancient magic that flowed through his very being, a magic that now cradled the entire office in its tender embrace. His chest, subtly rising and falling, was the only movement in the room, a rhythmic beat softer than any clock, echoing the deep, slow breath of the castle itself. As this gentle warmth expanded, it caught the unseen dust motes that ordinarily danced invisibly in the air. Now, in the pervasive, soft golden light emanating from the crystal orb and Fawkes's subtle glow, these tiny specks became visible, tiny, sparkling galaxies, drifting in slow, silent currents. They moved with an unhurried grace, catching and refracting the light, painting fleeting, ethereal patterns across the space, like miniature, sleepy stars traversing a vast, velvet night sky within the room. Each one seemed to hang suspended for a moment longer than possible, contributing to the feeling of time stretching out, infinitely peaceful. The profound stillness was so absolute that even the distant, soft creaks of the ancient Hogwarts castle, settling for the night, became part of the room's quiet symphony. These were not startling sounds, but rather gentle murmurs from deep within the stone and wood, like the castle itself sighing in its slumber. Each faint rustle, each almost inaudible shift, blended seamlessly into the magical lullaby, creating an ambient hum of deep contentment. It was the sound of quiet existence, of everything being exactly as it should be, inviting an even deeper descent into peaceful oblivion. The tiny, sparkling galaxies of dust continued their unhurried journey, now meandering past a tall, slender hourglass that stood sentinel on a nearby, intricately carved table, its polished brass frame usually reflecting the general office light, now seemed to absorb and re-emit the soft golden glow, making the grains of silver sand within visible as they descended with an almost imperceptible magical slowness, each shimmering grain catching the fleeting dust motes as they passed, seemed to trace an ancient, quiet path, a testament to the passage of time, made utterly serene and beautiful. The gentle descent of the sand was less a measure of moments passing and more a visual meditation on eternity, a soft, hypnotic rhythm for the eyes. As the light shifted and deepened, it seemed to gather and concentrate, pooling gently upon the surface of Dumbledore's grand, semicircular desk. The dark, polished wood, usually stoic and unyielding, now seemed to soften, absorbing the warmth, its grains subtly highlighted like the rings of an ancient tree telling stories in silent whispers. Nestled amongst scrolls and a leather-bound tome, a magnificent, vibrant peacock feather quill lay perfectly still. Yet, as the pervasive, tender warmth from Fawkes'S perch reached it, a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer danced along its delicate barbs, a transient echo of forgotten spells, a silent hum of magic awakening. It was a visual whisper, a gentle reminder that even the simplest tools in this office held a touch of enchantment, stirring softly in the quiet night. A new, almost imperceptible sensory layer gently unfolded within the room. A subtle, sweet scent, like old parchment and phoenix ashes, mingled with a hint of warm honey and distant, blooming night jasmine. It wasn't an overwhelming aroma, but rather a delicate whisper on the soft air, a fragrance woven into the very fabric of Dumbledore's office, present always, yet only truly noticed in these moments of profound quiet. It was comforting, grounding, a fragrance that spoke of wisdom, ancient magic, and the quiet, vigilant presence of Fawkes. This ethereal perfume seemed to deepen the sense of peace, cradling the space in a warm, olfactory embrace, guiding one gently toward a deeper state of relaxation. The tender warmth didn't stop at the shimmering quill. It continued its gentle pilgrimage across the dark, polished wood of Dumbledore's desk, reaching a small, antique orrery tucked beside a stack of parchments. This miniature celestial model, usually a delicate ballet of polished brass and crystal spheres, now seemed to slow its intricate dance even further. Its tiny gears, visible through minuscule glass panels, turned with a newly found, almost imperceptible grace, as if the warmth itself had lubricated the very passage of time within its mechanisms. Each tiny planet, usually orbiting with quiet purpose, now drifted through its miniature galaxy with with an exaggerated, peaceful slowness. Its polished surfaces catching and diffusing the soft, golden light. It was a silent, cosmic lullaby, played out in the heart of Dumbledore's office, a testament to the soothing power permeating the air from the gently turning orrery. The pervasive warmth seemed to lift and waft like an invisible, comforting mist toward the towering bookshelves that lined the curved walls of the office. Here, countless volumes of ancient knowledge, bound in faded leather and brittle parchment, stood in silent vigil, their spines worn smooth by centuries of scholarly hands. As the subtle heat embraced them, the very air around the books seemed to thicken slightly, imbued with the faint, comforting scent of aged paper and forgotten spells. A fragrance almost too delicate to perceive, a particularly old, thick tome, its title too worn to decipher, seemed to deepen in color, its worn leather spine absorbing the golden glow and reflecting it back with a subtle, almost pulsing luminescence. It was as if the stories held within were gently breathing, stirring softly in their sleep, dreaming of the magic they contained. The subtle magic woven through the warmth seemed to stir not just the inanimate objects, but also the very dust motes dancing in the air, transforming them into even more ethereal spectacles. Now, as they drifted past a collection of delicate, glass-encased instruments on a nearby table, a whispering star chart that usually hummed with faint constellations, a moon dial whose silver needle typically quivered with lunar phases. Their movement became a slow, almost reverent procession. Each tiny particle seemed to trace shimmering, intricate paths, briefly catching the golden light from Fawkes'S perch before dissolving into the gentle shadows, creating fleeting, gossamer trails. The instruments themselves, usually alive with quiet, internal energies, now seemed to hold their breath, their intricate workings visible but utterly still, as if listening to the quiet serenade of the dust, utterly at peace. From the quiet, breathing bookshelves, the comforting warmth began its final, gentle journey towards the highest, most revered corner of the office, Fawkes'S perch. As it ascended, it brushed past a collection of forgotten, brass-bound telescopes and dusty, intricate astrolabes resting on a small, round table. These instruments, usually cold and unyielding, now seemed to soften their metallic glint, absorbing the ambient glow and reflecting it back with a subdued, almost sleepy warmth. The lenses of the telescopes, usually sharp and clear, shimmered with a barely perceptible haze, as if they too were dreaming of distant, starlit skies. A faint, almost imperceptible whisper of ancient cosmic dust seemed to stir in the air around them, carried by the subtle, warming current. The soft, gilded haze continued its ascent, weaving its way past the final bookshelf and toward a tall, elegant stand of polished mahogany, intricately carved with swirling patterns that resembled stylized flames. This was Fawkes'S quiet perch, a place of immense stillness and gentle power. The warmth settled upon the wood, causing the dark grain to deepen further, absorbing the light and reflecting it back with a subtle inner luminescence. A faint, sweet scent, like distant wood smoke, mingled with an unseen floral note, began to emanate from the perch. A fragrance uniquely tied to the legendary bird that called it home. The very air around the perch seemed to hum with a low, contented vibration, a silent melody of peace. And there, nestled gently upon the now softly glowing perch, was Fawkes. The magnificent phoenix, usually a vibrant burst of scarlet and gold, was curled into a serene, compact bundle of feathers, deep in slumber. The pervasive warmth, having traveled through the entire office, now gathered around him, seeming to caress each individual feather. His brilliant plumage, typically fiery, now held a subdued, almost molten glow, like embers banking down for the night. A single long tail feather, tipped with pure gold, caught the soft light and pulsed with a slow, rhythmic shimmer, a living, breathing ember in the quiet office. His gentle, almost imperceptible breathing stirred the air, a silent counterpoint to the castle's deeper slumber. Upon the perch, nestled amidst the intricate carvings, Fawkes himself remained a picture of serene rest. His magnificent plumage, a vibrant tapestry of scarlet and gold, even in slumber, seemed to subtly deepen its hues as the pervasive warmth embraced him. A single, long-tail feather, tipped with an almost incandescent ember glow, twitched almost imperceptibly, as if dreaming of flight. The very air around his form felt slightly warmer, a gentle, living current that cradled his quiet presence. From within the depths of his feathers, a faint, rhythmic pulse, softer than a heartbeat, began to radiate, weaving into the already established hum of the office. It was a warmth that felt ancient, deep, and utterly peaceful, a beacon of tranquility in the heart of the sleeping castle. The polished mahogany of the perch beneath him seemed to absorb this radiant warmth, its surface now gleaming with a quiet, internal fire. The unique scent, a delicate blend of warm wood smoke, sweet spices, and something else indefinably ancient and comforting, now strengthened, filling the immediate air around the perch with a gentle presence. It was the scent of a creature of fire and rebirth, utterly distinct, yet soothingly familiar in the context of Hogwarts' deep magic. This fragrant warmth seemed to shimmer faintly, catching the ambient golden light and scattering it into barely visible, slow-dancing motes of golden dust that drifted in the still air. Each tiny particle seemed to carry a fragment of the phoenix's serene energy, slowly swirling in a mesmerizing, almost hypnotic dance. The light, filtering through and around these scented currents, cast a softer, more diffuse glow across the carved mahogany of the perch, softening its edges and making it appear even more invitingly warm. The office itself, in this immediate vicinity, seemed to breathe in this sweet, calming aroma, its ancient stones absorbing the peaceful infusion, the low, contented vibration that had begun to emanate from the perch now deepened, becoming a resonant hum that seemed to settle into the very structure of the office. It was less a sound and more a profound sensation, a quiet thrum that gently pressed against the air, silencing any lingering echoes of the day. This deep, serene vibration seemed to slow the passage of time itself within the office's high walls, stretching each quiet moment into a lingering peace. The brass-bound telescopes and dusty astrolabes on the nearby table, previously warmed by the ambient glow, now seemed to vibrate with this shared, deep tranquility, their metallic surfaces reflecting the soft light with an even softer, more ancient gleam. Even the oldest, most forgotten tomes on the shelves nearby seemed to lean into this profound quiet, their stories held in deeper slumber, guarded by the phoenix's peaceful presence. The air grew stiller, heavier with quiet, and utterly calm, as if the office had drawn a soft, deep breath and settled fully into the heart of the night. The quiet warmth from Fawkes'S perch began to spread beyond the immediate vicinity, reaching out like invisible, silken threads to the myriad curious objects scattered throughout Dumbledore's office. A silver instrument with many intricate dials, perched on a small, ornate table, caught a glimmer of this diffused golden light, and its tiny gears, usually motionless through the deepest night, began to turn with a slow, almost imperceptible whir. The sound was not mechanical, but rather a soft, sighing whisper, a gentle breath in the still air, so faint it might have been imagined. It was as if the ancient magic within the office was stirring in its sleep, acknowledging the tranquil, life-giving presence of the slumbering phoenix. A nearby crystal globe, filled with swirling, pale mists, seemed to deepen its internal luminosity, pulsing with a faint, warm glow that mirrored the gentle thrum emanating from Fawkes. This subtle animation of the inanimate added another layer of quiet magic to the room, a secret dialogue between ancient artifacts and primordial fire. The collective, gentle hum of the awakened artifacts, combined with Fawkes's deeper, rhythmic pulse, began to weave into the very fabric of the office's night. The shadows, previously still and deep in the corners, seemed to soften and stretch, elongating as if reaching out to embrace the pervasive warmth. The tall, slender candles, set in their heavy brass holders on various desks and shelves, flickered with an even more sedate rhythm, their flames appearing to dance with a languid, almost sleepy grace. Each tiny flame cast a slightly longer, more diffuse amber glow across the worn leather of Dumbledore's armchair and the spines of countless ancient books, making the entire space feel like a sanctuary against the world's waking hustle. The air itself grew heavier, not with stagnation, but with a palpable sense of peace, a quiet magic that invited deep rest. The subtle movement of light and shadow became a gentle, hypnotic ballet, a visual lullaby in the heart of Hogwarts. From Fawkes'S quiet perch, a profound warmth began to emanate, not scorching or bright, but a soft, enveloping heat that seemed to seep into the very stones of the ancient office. It was a warmth that felt alive, a gentle breath against the cool night, carrying with it a faint, sweet scent, like old roses warmed by the sun, mingled with something subtly metallic and clean, the pure essence of magic. This radiant comfort pulsed outwards, reaching the worn velvet of the nearby armchair, which now seemed to invite an even deeper repose, and touching the leather-bound volumes on the nearest shelf, warming their ancient pages from within. The air around the phoenix shimmered, almost imperceptibly, as if visible currents of peace were slowly expanding through the chamber. Beneath the gentle sway of this deepening warmth, the Pensieve, usually a basin of still, silvery thoughts, began a quiet dance of its own. Its surface, a swirling mist of pearlescent light, shimmered with an almost imperceptible ripple, like a breath drawn across calm water. The faint glows from the crystal globe, and the dancing candle flames reflected within its depths, stretching and blurring into elongated, dreamlike streaks of light. It wasn't actively displaying a memory, but rather seemed to be listening, its ancient magic resonating with the quiet symphony of the office, offering a silent, reflective pool for the soft, diffused light to play upon, deepening the sense of tranquility within the room. Even the echoes of the castle itself seemed to understand this deep, internal quiet. Any faint, lingering murmurs from the distant dungeons, the whisper of a breeze through an open window in a faraway corridor, or the soft hoot of an owl from the owlery's towers, seemed to grow muffled, drawn into the office's profound stillness. Each external sound, however faint, was gently absorbed by the thick, magically imbued air, leaving only the rhythmic pulse of Fawkes, the soft turning of the clockwork, and the quiet hum of the enchanted objects. The silence was not empty, but rich and full, a soft, velvet curtain drawn against the world, ensuring a sanctuary of perfect, undisturbed repose. The soft undulations of the Pensieve's surface cast slow, moving reflections onto the nearby wall, where portraits usually hummed with restless energy. Tonight, however, even the painted figures seemed to succumb to the enveloping calm. The grand portrait of Albus Dumbledore himself, typically holding a knowing, gentle gaze, now showed his eyes softly closed, a faint, dreamlike smile playing on his lips, as if he too were caught in the quiet enchantment. Other former headmasters and headmistresses, usually prone to murmuring amongst themselves or shifting within their frames, now rested in serene stillness, their painted forms bathed in the gentle, diffused light from the office's various magical sources. Their silence was profound, contributing to the deep, unbroken peace that had settled over the room, a testament to the soothing power emanating from Fawkes. Beyond the stilled portraits, the numerous delicate instruments that filled Dumbledore's office also seemed to enter a state of graceful repose. The Hourglass, usually a swirling vortex of shadows and distant threats, now showed only a placid, cloudy surface, mirroring the quiet reflections of the Pensieve. Silver instruments with whirring gears, like the tiny, intricate orrery in the corner, slowed their perpetual motion to an almost imperceptible crawl, their metallic surfaces gleaming softly in the muted light. A delicate, crystal-topped globe, typically mapping shifting astral bodies, remained still, its internal constellations frozen in a perfect, harmonious alignment. Each object, usually alive with its own magical purpose, now resonated with the collective stillness, becoming part of the office's lullaby, a silent orchestra of slumber. The very air in the office, once thick with the scent of parchment and lemon drops, now carried only the faintest echo of that warm, sweet, metallic magic emanating from Fawkes. It was a scent almost imperceptible, yet deeply grounding, like the memory of a comforting dream. The shadows in the room, instead of deepening into oppressive darkness, became softer, more inviting, like velvet drapes drawn across a window. They danced with the gentle flickers of the low-burning candles, stretching and receding in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. The subtle creaks and groans of the ancient castle, usually a part of its nocturnal chorus, were completely absent here, replaced by an absolute quietude, so profound it felt like the world outside had momentarily ceased to exist, leaving only this pocket of serene, magical slumber. The origin of this profound hush seemed to emanate directly from Fawkes, resting quietly on his golden perch. His magnificent, fiery plumage, usually a vibrant burst of reds and golds, now appeared softened, muted, absorbing and reflecting the gentle light rather than radiating it. A faint, almost imperceptible warmth shimmered from him, not a heat that stirred the air, but a comforting presence that smoothed out any remaining ripple of energy. It was as if his very breath was the lullaby, and his silent, watchful gaze, though unseen, held the entire office in its tender embrace, drawing all activity into a tranquil state. On the grand, crescent-shaped desk, usually a hub of magical activity, an unusual sense of order prevailed. Scrolls of parchment lay neatly rolled, not a single one askew. Quills rested perfectly aligned in their stand, their feather tips uninked and silent. Even the intricate silver instruments scattered across its surface, from tiny, perfectly balanced scales to a miniature crystal ball, seemed to have polished themselves into a state of pristine stillness, their reflections catching the soft light and holding it steady, contributing to the room's deep, quiet breath, as if in slumber. Along the towering, curving walls, the ancient bookshelves, packed tightly with volumes of every magical discipline, also contributed to the profound quiet. The thick leather bindings and worn spines, often seeming to hum with the knowledge contained within, now held their secrets in absolute silence. Not a single page rustled, not a whispered word seemed to escape their covers. The very air around them felt heavy with history and stillness, a comforting, secure silence that promised no sudden revelations, only soft, undisturbed repose, wrapped in the gentle, warm glow of the room, inviting deeper rest. Beyond the Crescent desk, the tall, spiraling bookshelves that lined the circular walls of Dumbledore's office also seemed to have succumbed to the profound tranquility. Rows upon rows of ancient tomes, their leather bindings varying from deep crimson to faded emerald, rested undisturbed. The faint, almost imperceptible warmth that emanated from Fawkes'S seemed to ripple outwards, softening the sharp edges of every spine, making the very air around the books feel like a comforting, invisible blanket. Normally, one might imagine the rustle of pages being turned by an unseen hand, or the quiet murmur of a forgotten incantation escaping from a particularly potent spellbook. But tonight, there was only silence, a velvet quiet that settled between each volume, a deep, contented hush that seemed to seep into the very parchment within. Dust motes, suspended in the still air, caught the subtle, indirect light, appearing like tiny, glittering constellations momentarily paused in their slow drift. High above the shelves, the many portraits of previous Hogwarts headmasters and headmistresses, usually prone to animated chatter and witty observations, were now utterly still. Their painted eyes, which often twinkled with mischief or regarded the room with sagely scrutiny, were now gently closed, or if open, held a faraway, dreaming quality, reflecting no immediate world, but an inner landscape of peace. Phineas Nigellus Black, usually seen huffing with disdain or grumbling about student antics, now wore an expression of serene slumber, his painted breath seemingly slowing to match the rhythm of the room, his long, aristocratic nose slightly upturned in quiet repose. Armando Dippet, with his stern, square beard, appeared to be softly dreaming of ancient feasts or long-forgotten magical duels, his usually serious face softened by the encompassing peace, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. Even the formidable Dilys Derwent, known for her sharp wit and piercing gaze, was now a picture of gentle rest, her usually alert features smoothed into a calm repose. The frames themselves, ornate and gilded, seemed to absorb the quiet light, their intricate carvings softened by the gentle glow that permeated the office, blending with the subtle warmth emanating from Fawkes. A low, persistent hum, almost imperceptible, seemed to emanate not from the instruments on the desk, but from the Pensieve itself, usually a vessel for swirling, chaotic memories, now a pool of shimmering, pearlescent light. The silver basin, intricately carved with ancient runes and symbols that spoke of forgotten wisdom, cradled the luminous liquid within. It wasn't swirling with active thoughts or vivid visions, but softly glowing with a tranquil, cool light that perfectly complemented Fawkes'S pervasive, deep warmth. It was as if the Pensieve was breathing too, a slow, deep intake and exhalation of pure, quiet magic, its surface rippling with the faintest, most mesmerizing undulations, like a dreaming pond under a hidden moon. This unique blend of Fawkes'S inner, fiery peace and the Pensieve's calming, reflective glow created an atmosphere where the air itself felt denser, imbued with ancient wisdom and settled peace, a balm for any lingering restlessness. The overall illumination in the office wasn't bright, nor did it cast sharp, waking shadows. Instead, it was a soft merging of deep ambers from the unseen candle flames, muted silvers from enchanted instruments, and faint, warm golds reflecting from Fawkes, creating a space where the edges of reality seemed to blur, inviting a deep sense of security and quietude. It was a perfect harmony, a silent symphony of light and warmth, encouraging everything within the ancient stone walls to simply be, to simply rest, as if the entire office was holding its breath in collective, peaceful slumber, waiting for the first blush of dawn. The source of this gentle warmth, this soft, ambient light, was Fawkes. He rested on his tall, gilded perch beside the grand fireplace, a quiet sentinel in the circular room. He was not truly asleep, not in the way the painted headmasters were. His head was tucked beneath a wing of deepest crimson, but his form held a serene awareness, a deep, meditative stillness that was more profound than simple slumber. His golden tail feathers, long and impossibly elegant, drooped gracefully, their tips almost brushing against the polished floor. From within his plumage, a soft, internal fire seemed to burn, not with heat that would scorch, but with a life-giving warmth that radiated outwards in gentle waves. The golden feather drifted, turning over and over in a slow, silent dance. It caught unseen currents in the still air, meandering away from the perch and out over the heart of the office. Its journey took it past the collection of spindly-legged tables where Dumbledore's delicate, silvery instruments were housed. These were not inert objects. As the feathers' warm, magical light washed over them, they responded with a subtle life of their own. A tall, slender device composed of interlocking silver rings began to rotate, its movements impossibly smooth and silent, glinting as it caught the feather's glow. Finally, its slow, meandering journey came to an end. The feather drifted towards the great, claw-footed desk, a vast expanse of dark, polished wood. It circled once more before settling, as gently as a sigh, upon the open page of a heavy, leather-bound book. The book was immense, its parchment thick and creamy with age, covered in lines of elegant, unfamiliar script and complex, circular diagrams that resembled celestial maps. For a moment, the feather's light intensified, illuminating the page with a brilliant, focused glow. The ink of the ancient runes seemed to darken, to sharpen, as if drinking in the magic. The silver rings continued their languid spin, reflecting the feather's soft glow like a miniature, silent galaxy. The golden feather, however, did not linger. It drifted further, a tiny, glowing beacon, its warm light now reaching the edge of Dumbledore's vast, crescent-shaped desk. Here, among stacks of ancient scrolls tied with silk ribbons and an open, leather-bound book, the feather paused, hovering just above a silver quill resting in an intricately carved inkwell. A faint shimmer passed over the silver quill as the feather's warmth embraced it, a subtle gleam running along its polished shaft. The ink within the well seemed to deepen its hue, a richer, more vibrant black, catching the light without stirring. It was a silent, tender moment of connection, as if the feather's magic was gently breathing life into the tools of Dumbledore's quiet work, preparing them for unseen thoughts, yet to be penned. The air around the desk felt a degree warmer, imbued with a comforting, almost drowsy quality. From the desk, the feather began another slow, graceful ascent, drawing away from the now softly glowing stationery. It drifted upwards, moving past the towering bookshelves that lined the circular walls, their ancient spines absorbing the faint light. The leather-bound volumes, some as tall as a man's forearm, seemed to exhale a quiet sigh of contentment as the feather's gentle magic passed by, stirring the very air around them with a soft, almost imperceptible whisper of old parchment and forgotten spells. The golden feather, having imparted its warmth to the quill and ink, began to drift once more. It spun slowly, catching the imperceptible currents that guided it away from the Crescent desk, leaving a lingering, almost palpable trace of comfort behind. Its silent journey now turned towards the more ancient, mysterious objects nestled within the office's quieter corners. The soft light it cast ahead revealed the subtle gleam of polished stone, hinting at its next destination. It approached the Pensieve, a wide, shallow stone basin carved with ancient runes, its surface holding a shimmering, silvery substance that seemed to be a liquid light rather than water. As the feather drew near, its golden glow deepened the subtle iridescence of the Pensieve's surface. A faint, almost imperceptible ripple stirred within the basin, not a disturbance, but a gentle awakening. as if the memories held within were stirring in a soft, magical dream. The air around it felt suddenly cooler, a refreshing counterpoint to the desk's earlier warmth, yet still profoundly peaceful. The feather paused for a long, quiet moment above the Pensieve, its light momentarily reflecting in the swirling thoughts below, before beginning its slow ascent once more. It lifted gently, turning with the grace of a miniature dancer, drawing a final, faint shimmer from the Pensieve's surface with an unhurried elegance. It then began to drift further into the office, its path now curving towards the tall, heavy bookshelves that lined one wall, promising new, silent discoveries amongst the ancient knowledge stored there. The golden feather, having awakened the ancient memories within the Pensieve, now drifted onward, drawn by a new, comforting sensation. The gentle coolness it had imbued the air around the basin began to recede, replaced by an unmistakable, burgeoning warmth. This new warmth wasn't the brisk, invigorating heat of a roaring hearth, but a soft, enveloping glow, almost like a distant, living ember. It seemed to emanate from a higher point within the vast, shadowy office, a quiet pulse in the tranquil darkness. The feather, guided by unseen currents, began a slow ascent, its own golden light mirroring the subtle crimson and gold hues that were now just perceptible ahead, hinting at a very special, sleeping presence. Higher and higher the feather floated, its ascent unhurried, as the warmth grew more profound, more distinctly alive. It spiraled closer to a magnificent golden perch, intricately carved with mythical creatures, positioned high on a stand near Dumbledore's towering bookshelves. Upon this perch, nestled amongst soft crimson and gold silken drapery, lay Fawkes, the phoenix, a silent, majestic form. His feathers, normally vibrant, now shimmered with a subdued inner light, reflecting the gentle amber glow of the office. He was a picture of slumbering grace, his head tucked beneath a wing, his rhythmic, almost imperceptible breathing a soft, reassuring whisper in the immense quietude. The very air around him felt imbued with a deep, comforting heat, like a living, breathing hearth. Finally, with a gentle, almost hesitant motion, the golden feather came to rest. It didn't settle directly upon Fawkes, but found a soft landing spot on the very edge of his golden perch, nestled amongst a few stray, incredibly soft crimson downy feathers. Here, surrounded by the deep, enveloping warmth that seemed to emanate directly from the sleeping phoenix, the feather's own golden light dimmed slightly, as if finding its perfect harmony within the greater glow. The air was now thick with this serene, living heat, a balm to the quiet night. Each breath Fawkes took was a soft, inaudible ripple of magic, a gentle undulation of slumber that filled the entire office with an extraordinary sense of peace and protective warmth, inviting a deep, restorative calm. The golden feather, its journey complete, now settled softly beside Fawkes'S vast, sleeping form. It rested among the warm, crimson silks that draped the magnificent Perch, its own faint golden light seeming to merge with the deeper, internal glow of the phoenix. The air around this convergence point felt even warmer, a contained pocket of gentle heat that invited a profound sense of peace. Fawkes'S slumber remained undisturbed, his head still tucked, a perfect picture of quiet, powerful rest. The subtle crimson and gold of his feathers, reflecting the ambient light of the office, now seemed to draw forth an even softer, more tender radiance from the feather beside him, a harmonious blend of quiescent magic. This wasn't merely a reflection. It was a resonance, a quiet hum of shared magical essence that deepened the tranquility of the entire room. A faint, almost imperceptible warmth now radiated outwards from Fawkes'S perch, not merely a static heat, but one that pulsed with the very gentle rhythm of his deep, sleeping breaths. The silken drapery, usually quite still, now seemed to stir with a whisper-soft undulation, mirroring this subtle, life-giving current. It was as if the air itself, usually cold and still in the higher reaches of the ancient office, had been gently coaxed into a state of warm, contented movement. The scent of faint, distant ash and something sweet, like warm honey and ancient spices, began to bloom delicately in this warmed pocket of air, a signature of the phoenix's profound, peaceful existence. This subtle, fragrant warmth was a comfort that seemed to settle not just on the senses, but deep within the very quiet of the room, promising undisturbed peace beyond the immediate embrace of Fawkes'S perch. The vast expanse of Dumbledore's office remained suspended in a profound, unbreaking quiet. The myriad of peculiar instruments and ancient artifacts that populated the room, the shimmering silver devices, the whirring orbs, the intricate mechanisms of unknown purpose, all held their breath in the peaceful glow, their usual soft clicks and hums completely stilled. The only movement was the occasional, almost imperceptible flicker of a distant candlelight, and the gentle, radiating warmth from Fawkes, which now seemed to soften the edges of the deepest shadows in the room. It was a warmth that felt protective, a silent guardian over the secrets and slumber of the castle. The air, though still, carried this tender heat, making the very stone of the ancient walls feel less cold, less formidable, and entirely more comforting, dissolving any lingering tension into the deep, quiet magic of the night. The profound stillness of the office, usually touched by the cool, ancient air of the castle, now began to gently yield to this encroaching warmth. It seeped slowly, like a benevolent tide, away from Fawkes'S perch and towards the magnificent, cluttered desk of the headmaster. Scrolls of parchment, usually cool and crisp, seemed to absorb a fraction of this new, gentle heat, softening imperceptibly as if warmed by a distant hearth. The quill resting in an inkpot, its tip poised, now shimmered with a faint, reflected sheen of golden light, catching the subtle glow from the phoenix's magnificent form. This wasn't a visible current of air, but a felt presence, a deepening of the room's inherent coziness that seemed to emanate from the very heart of magic itself. The intricate silver instruments that adorned Dumbledore's desk, the whirring, clicking, and softly ticking contraptions of various arcane purposes, seemed to slow their perpetual motions, their miniature gears turning with an even more languid grace. Their usually polished surfaces caught the diffused light from Fawkes'S corner, reflecting it back as soft, blurred highlights, not sharp or jarring, but muted and mellow. One particular silver spyglass, its lenses usually gleaming with a keen, inquisitive spark, now held a deep, liquid glow, mirroring the slumbering magic. A tiny, almost imperceptible hum, usually present, seemed to quieten further, as if the instruments themselves had acknowledged the deep, pervasive peace and decided to participate in the general calm. Even the towering bookshelves, filled with ancient tomes and bound volumes that lined the walls of the office, appeared to soften at their edges under the influence of this pervasive tranquility. The rich, leathery scent of old books, often sharp and distinct, now mingled with the phoenix's warm, honeyed fragrance, creating a deeper, more comforting aroma that filled the air. Shadows, typically stark against the parchment-like walls, seemed to recede into softer, more rounded forms, no longer sharp lines, but gentle gradients. It was as if the entire room, from the magnificent beast at its heart to the most distant, dust-moted corner, was settling into a profound, shared silence, a hushed reverence for the quiet magic unfolding within. The heavy, ornate hourglass that usually marked the passage of a slow, magical time upon Dumbledore's desk now seemed to hold its golden sands in even deeper suspension. Each sparkling grain, once a whisper of movement, now descended with an almost imperceptible reluctance, as if the very flow of time had been enchanted to stretch into an endless, soothing present. The faint shimmer of starlight that gathered on its polished glass caught the golden undertones from Fawkes, creating a luminous, mesmerizing dance within the slow fall of the sands, each sparkle a tiny, fleeting dream. Beyond the desk, the tall, towering shelves laden with ancient volumes seemed to exhale a quiet, papery breath. The warmth, having permeated the air, now settled upon the aged leather and parchment. One particularly large, dark green tome, bound in dragon hide and rarely opened, absorbed the gentle heat, its surface losing some of its usual stiffness. The faint, almost forgotten scent of old spells and dry ink, usually crisp and cool, now mingled with the phoenix's subtle fragrance, creating a rich, calming aroma that promised centuries of slumbering wisdom. In a shadowed alcove, the Pensieve, usually holding swirling silver thoughts, now appeared particularly still. The surface of the shimmering liquid, often a mirror for restless memories, lay almost perfectly calm, reflecting the faintest diffused warmth from the far corner. Its depths, usually alive with faint, ethereal currents, now held a deep, undisturbed luminescence, as if all the myriad thoughts and recollections had settled into a profound, shared silence, waiting patiently for the return of morning, or perhaps for a dream. Beyond the ancient tomes, the numerous portraits adorning the circular walls seemed to settle further into their frames. The warmth that now saturated the very stone of the office permeated their painted canvases, softening the usually stern or watchful expressions of past headmasters and headmistresses. Their faint, almost imperceptible breathing, a common feature of magical portraits, slowed to an even more languid rhythm, a collective sigh of contentment carried on the soft, warm air. Their eyes, often keen and observing, now held a dreamy, distant quality, reflecting the gentle amber glow from Fawkes'S corner rather than the sharp light of inquiry. Even the rustle of a painted silk robe or the faint creak of a painted chair seemed to soften, merging into the pervasive, deep quietude that had claimed the office for the night. On Dumbledore's large, crescent-shaped desk, amidst the orderly chaos of ancient scrolls and peculiar silver instruments, the Pensieve rested, its shallow stone basin holding a shimmering, silvery substance. The usual subtle swirl of memories within its depths seemed to quiet, its surface growing almost perfectly still, reflecting the soft, warm light of the office with a mirror-like perfection. The liquid within, typically alive with faint, whispering currents of thought, now held its secrets in a deeper, more peaceful suspension. A thin, almost invisible veil of warmth settled over its rim, smoothing any hint of cold or crystalline sharpness, rendering it an object of serene, liquid calm, a silent keeper of dreams rather than active memories. Even the large, intricate globes, usually depicting swirling star charts and constantly shifting celestial bodies, slowed their stately revolutions. Their painted constellations, once a vibrant map of cosmic activity, now seemed to hang suspended, each tiny star a pinprick of diffused light, caught in the office's deepening stillness. The soft hum of their internal mechanisms, a constant, low thrum, faded almost entirely, leaving only the faintest echo, like a distant memory of motion. The warmth from Fawkes'S perch seemed to envelop them, giving their polished surfaces a soft, inviting sheen, less a scientific instrument and more a tranquil, dreamlike vision of the cosmos, gently breathing in the quiet night. The pervasive warmth, originating from Fawkes'S corner, seemed to gently stir the very air, not with a breeze, but with a profound stillness that nevertheless felt alive. It carried the soft, subtle scent that had grown stronger as the night deepened, not just old magic and ink, but the distinct, comforting perfume of phoenix ash, a faint, sweet smokiness that promised renewal and deep rest. This scent, unlike any other in Hogwarts, settled into the folds of ancient tapestries, softened the edges of carved wooden gargoyles, and even seemed to quiet the perpetual whirring of the more intricate silver instruments on Dumbledore's desk. Their usual faint clicks and hums, always present, now seemed to slow, their gears turning with an almost sleepy languor, reflecting the overall peaceful rhythm of the office. The small, ornate silver devices, usually engaged in their mysterious observations of the cosmos or complex calculations, now pulsed with a dimmer, gentler light, their internal mechanisms settling into a quiet, almost meditative state. The glass vials nearby, filled with shimmering, unknown potions, caught the diffused amber light, glowing with an internal, unmoving warmth, their contents suspended in perfect, still beauty. Closer to the source of this pervasive warmth, Fawkes'S Perch stood, a simple yet elegant stand crafted from an ancient, dark wood, polished smooth by time and the passage of generations. The air here was noticeably softer, imbued with a deep, almost liquid heat that seemed to seep into the very foundations of the castle. Fawkes himself, a magnificent creature of fiery plumage, was settled deeply within his stand, his head tucked gently beneath a wing, his vibrant red and gold feathers glowing with a soft, internal luminescence. The light wasn't harsh or flickering like fire, but a steady, profound amber pulse that seemed to beat in time with the quietude of the night. Each individual feather, usually so keen and sharp in its brilliance, now appeared softened, its edges blurred by the gentle glow, like embers held in the deepest part of a hearth, radiating warmth without consuming. A few stray, almost imperceptible wisps of a faint, shimmering vapor curled lazily upwards from his form, dissolving into the warm air, carrying the essence of phoenix healing and tranquility. Round Fawkes'S Perch, a small, invisible ripple of serenity seemed to spread, touching the ancient stone wall behind him. The rough-hewn blocks of the castle, usually cool and stoic, now felt permeated with a residual warmth, as if they had absorbed centuries of the phoenix's gentle heat. Even the intricate carvings and forgotten symbols etched into the stone, barely visible in the dim light, seemed to soften, their sharp edges smoothed by the pervasive calm. Dust motes, usually dancing in any available light, were entirely absent in this pocket of pure stillness, held in a magical suspension that allowed only the gentle glow of Fawkes to dominate. On a small, almost hidden shelf near his perch, a single, feather-light scroll of ancient parchment lay unfurled, its surface now completely still, without the faintest ripple or shift from any unseen draft. Its written words, perhaps spells or ancient wisdom, seemed to slumber too, held in the same deep peace that had claimed the phoenix, promising no urgent message, only quiet understanding. The office, in this deepest part of the night, had become a haven of absolute, unwavering tranquility, a sanctuary where time itself seemed to slow to a single, gentle beat. The very air itself, immediately surrounding Fawkes'S quiet perch, seemed to shimmer faintly, not with the quick, darting movements of heat haze, but with a settled, inner luminescence. It was as if the invisible currents and eddies that perpetually stirred within Dumbledore's office, the faint, magical drafts from open windows high above, the almost imperceptible air movements caused by the subtle workings of ancient instruments, had slowed to a near standstill. They seemed caught and held within the gentle, unmoving eddy of the phoenix's profound peace, a tranquil sphere expanding slowly from his deeply settled form. A soft, almost ancient scent, subtle and warm, now permeated this immediate space. It wasn't a strong, defined fragrance, but rather an essence, like sun-warmed dust motes dancing in forgotten light. A quiet exhalation that spoke of deep magic and timeless tranquility. This pervasive aroma was a presence, an invitation to stillness, dissolving any lingering tension in the air. A few feet from the glowing perch, where the soft, ancient aroma gently mingled with the ambient stillness, a stack of particularly old, leather-bound tomes rested upon a small, intricately carved table. These were not the common school books, but vast, silent repositories of forgotten enchantments and arcane histories. Their covers, usually a deep, somber brown, now seemed to absorb the phoenix's gentle glow, appearing burnished with a quiet, internal warmth that softened their rigid spines. The aged gold lettering on their spines, faded by centuries of gentle handling, and the quiet passage of time, seemed to catch a new, faint gleam, as if the ancient knowledge within them was stirring, gently warmed by the pervasive magic. One of the books lay slightly ajar, revealing pages brittle with age, the parchment itself taking on a translucent, soft amber hue at its edges, imbued with the comforting presence. Tiny, almost invisible dust motes, caught in the gentle light, drifted lazily above the open page, as if performing a slow, silent dance beyond the immediate aura of Fawkes and the softly glowing books. The vast, circular office of Dumbledore lay steeped in a profound hush. The intricate silver instruments on the grand desk, earlier slowed to a sleepy rhythm, now seemed utterly still, their tiny gears and springs held in a magical suspension, their polished surfaces reflecting the subdued light like distant, silent stars. They hummed no more, their perpetual whirring finally silenced by the overwhelming peace. The towering shelves, laden with countless volumes, and enigmatic artifacts that usually hinted at a bustling mind and busy hands, now receded into soft, deep shadows. Their forms were made gentle and indistinct by the pervasive warmth, which seemed to soften every edge and sharp corner, inviting the eye to rest. Moonlight, usually a sharp, silvery presence as it streamed through the high, arched windows, found its way into the office. But instead of cutting through the darkness with stark definition, it seemed to blend seamlessly with the office's inner glow. The open book's parchment, already a soft amber from centuries of existence, now seemed to deepen slightly in color, a faint blush appearing along the edges of its intricate script. The tiny dust motes, which had been performing their slow dance above the page, now drifted even more deliberately, forming almost imperceptible, gentle patterns, as if guided by an unseen, subtle current of air that originated from the very pages themselves. A profound sense of quiet wisdom emanated from the ancient text, almost a soft hum that could only be felt in the deepest stillness of the mind, not heard by the ear. This subtle emanation from the open tome seemed to ripple outwards, gently caressing the polished, dark wood of the intricately carved table beneath it. The patterns etched into the table's surface, usually deep and shadowed, now caught the faint, pervasive light with an almost liquid sheen, as if the wood itself had become infused with a gentle, inner luminescence. Tiny, forgotten glyphs, almost indistinguishable from the natural grain of the wood, seemed to awaken, appearing as fleeting, silvery outlines that vanished as softly as they appeared, hinting at ancient protective enchantments woven into the very structure of the furniture. Beyond the table, slightly further into the soft shadows of the office, one of Dumbledore's smaller, less ostentatious instruments now caught this pervasive, ambient glow. It was a silver orb, nested gently within delicate brass rings, its surface usually a matte sheen, now reflecting the quiet warmth of the room with a soft, diffused luminescence, like captured moonlight held within solid form. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, one of the brass rings began to rotate, a movement so gentle it seemed less a mechanism and more a slow, organic breath, turning just enough to reveal a single, tiny sapphire glinting softly from within its depths before settling into stillness once more, as if simply acknowledging the deep peace. The subtle luminescence from the ancient table didn't fade, but rather softened, expanding like a warm breath through the spacious office. It reached the spines of further books on distant shelves, making their gold lettering gleam with a deeper, richer hue, as if awakening dormant magic. The air itself seemed to grow denser, infused with a comforting, almost tangible warmth that whispered of a powerful, benevolent magic nearby, a unique magical presence. This gentle glow cast long, soft shadows, making the grand room feel both intimately cozy and infinitely profound. A quiet sanctuary against the castle's night. Following this subtle current of warmth, the pervasive glow seemed to gather and intensify, coalescing near a magnificent, intricately carved golden stand. This stand, taller than any human, rose elegantly from the floor, its polished surface catching and refracting the amber light with a quiet, regal dignity. It was clearly a perch, designed for something extraordinary. Its golden bars and delicate spirals imbued with a latent, gentle heat, as if perpetually holding the memory of a profound warmth. A faint, sweet scent, like cinnamon and distant embers, now distinctly tinged the air directly around it, hinting at the precious inhabitant. And there, nestled amidst the golden spirals of the perch, was Fawkes. His brilliant scarlet and gold plumage, usually vibrant and almost blinding, now held a subdued, deep luster under the soft light. He was perfectly still, his majestic head tucked gently beneath a wing, a picture of profound serenity and peaceful repose. Yet, a faint, almost imperceptible pulsation of warmth emanated from his sleeping form, a gentle heartbeat of magic that further calmed the very air. Tiny, faint motes of golden light seemed to dance not just around him, but from within his very feathers, as if his slumbering form was a tiny, quiescent star in the quiet night. Upon this magnificent perch, in the gentle confluence of the office's ambient light, rested Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix. He was a silent, magnificent presence, a vibrant burst of scarlet and gold against the dimming light, his plumage seeming to absorb, and then softly radiate the warmth that now permeated the air. His eyes, usually sharp and knowing, were half closed, giving him a look of profound tranquility, as if he too were settled deeply into the castle's nightly peace. Each feather on his chest shimmered with an inner fire, not bright or searing, but a deep, comforting glow that pulsated ever so faintly, like a living ember. The subtle, sweet scent of cinnamon and embers intensified, now clearly emanating from his very being. A warm, fragrant aura that filled the immediate space around his perch with a profound sense of ancient magic and quietude. The warmth from Fawkes seemed to ripple outwards, a gentle, invisible wave that brushed against the heavy velvet curtains, causing their dark fabric to appear a shade softer, less imposing. It flowed past the towering shelves, bathing the leather-bound books in a subdued, burnished light that brought out the rich textures of their spines. This benevolent energy seemed to hum faintly, a frequency too low to hear, but distinctly felt, settling deeper into the very stones of the castle. It wasn't the heat of a roaring fire, but the enduring, deep-seated warmth of a protective charm, a centuries-old comfort that had nestled itself into the very core of Hogwarts. Even the air, now thick with the Phoenix's gentle aura, felt like a soft blanket, wrapping around the ancient artifacts and the silent portraits alike. A tiny, almost imperceptible plume of shimmering, golden smoke curled upwards from Fawkes'S beak. So delicate, it was more a visual whisper than a substance. It dissolved into the air moments after forming, carrying with it a faint, sweet, and comforting scent that was a blend of aged parchment, a hint of lemon drops, and that ever-present whisper of cinnamon and distant embers. This gentle exhalation was a silent lullaby, a magical signature that underscored the profound peace Fawkes embodied. It was a testament to the Phoenix's serene state, a living embodiment of tranquil power resting at the very heart of the headmaster's study. The light from Fawkes's plumage now caught the edges of the numerous silver instruments scattered on Dumbledore's large, crescent-shaped desk, making them gleam with a soft, ethereal sheen. As if responding to the Phoenix's quiet magic, the gentle ripples of warmth from Fawkes found their way to the intricate silver mechanisms ticking softly on Dumbledore's desk. The delicate gears of a particularly complex device, a miniature celestial orrery, usually a brilliant sheen, now caught the faint light with a soft, almost ethereal glow, their polished surfaces reflecting a deep, burnished amber. A tiny, dormant constellation within a glass orb seemed to stir slightly, its miniature stars pulsing with a barely perceptible, comforting light. As if reassured by the Phoenix's serene presence, its intricate brass rings, once still, now turned with an almost imperceptible slowness, mimicking the ancient, slow dance of the planets. The very air around these enchanted objects felt thicker, imbued with a quiet, ancient magic that hinted at profound secrets held gently in slumber. A protective blanket woven from the Phoenix's endless, comforting energy. The subtle shifts in light and shadow played across the delicate etchings of maps of forgotten stars, making them seem to pulse with a faint, internal rhythm, deepening the sense of profound, undisturbed peace that settled over the office. A soft, almost imperceptible hum now filled the space, a delicate symphony born from the castle's old timbers settling deeper into their ancient foundations, and the deep, contented thrum of Fawkes's inner fire. It was a sound that didn't disturb the profound quietude, but deepened it, like the gentle whisper of distant leaves against a window pane, or the far-off sigh of the black lake. Occasionally, a faint, resonant creak would emanate from the grand, towering wooden shelves, a slow, gentle sigh from the ancient library as it settled deeper into the peaceful embrace of the night. These subtle sounds were interwoven with the faint rustle of Fawkes's magnificent primary feathers, a soft, almost musical brush of gold and scarlet as the phoenix shifted ever so slightly, a testament to his peaceful, undisturbed slumber. Each breath he took was an invisible wave, adding to the gentle rhythm of the sleeping castle. a subtle reminder of the profound life force at its heart. Through the tall, arched windows, slices of pale, ethereal moonlight now filtered, casting long, elegant shadows across the familiar contours of the room. This cool, silvery light, usually crisp and stark, now seemed to soften and diffuse as it mingled with the deep amber glow emanating from Fawkes'S Perch, creating a beautiful, soft contrast that made the office feel even more protected, snug, and utterly timeless. The moonbeams, as they touched the edges of the phoenix's quiet roost, seemed to absorb some of his inherent warmth, carrying a faint, shimmering hint of gold as they stretched across the polished, dark wood floor. They gracefully guided the eye gently towards the peaceful, radiant center of the room, where the phoenix rested, a beacon of serene magic, while outside, the night sky was a velvet canvas, dotted with silently watching stars. The profound quiet was not an absence of sensation, but rather a canvas upon which other, more subtle perceptions could emerge. A gentle, almost imperceptible warmth now seemed to emanate not just from Fawkes'S Perch, but from the very heart of the room itself, a deep, ancient heat that seeped from the castle's stones and the countless spells woven into its fabric over centuries. It was the warmth of a long sleeping hearth, a comforting embrace that seemed to softly cradle the air, making each breath feel lighter, cleaner. This wasn't a tangible heat that could be measured, but a pervasive, soothing quality in the atmosphere, like a silken cloak settling around one's shoulders. It softened the edges of the shadows, turning them into deep velvet, and encouraged a deeper sense of relaxation, as if the office itself was exhaling a contented sigh. The air, though still, felt alive with this gentle thermal ebb and flow, a silent, comforting pulse that resonated with the phoenix's own serene warmth, guiding the mind toward a state of profound peace. As this comforting warmth settled, a tiny, enchanted silver quill resting on Dumbledore's vast, claw-footed desk began to stir. Its delicate feather, tipped with an almost invisible luminescence, lifted slightly, then dipped back down, as if taking silent, invisible notes on the profound stillness of the room. It was not a sudden movement, but a slow, graceful dance, barely noticeable unless one was truly attuned to the quiet magic that permeated every object in the office. The quill's soft, inner glow pulsed with the same gentle rhythm as the distant constellation within the glass orb, a shared, silent heartbeat within the enchanted space. Each gentle rise and fall of its tip seemed to trace a silent thought in the air, a fleeting wisp of magic that dissolved back into the calm. This small, consistent motion added a minuscule, visual cadence to the pervasive piece, a subtle nod to the active magic that continued its work even in slumber, nurturing the tranquil atmosphere just beyond the desk, where the quill continued its gentle, silent script. A deeper, more ancient magic stirred, Pensieve, its shallow stone basin usually calm and reflective, now held a barely perceptible internal glow. This wasn't a bright light, but a shimmering, ethereal silver that swirled with infinite slowness, like distant nebulae caught within its depths. It cast delicate, liquid patterns across the curved, dark wood of the desk, tracing fleeting visions that dissolved as gently as they appeared, adding a profound, quiet depth to the room's peaceful hush. The Pensieve's faint, silvery breath extended, almost without notice, towards Fawkes'S tall, golden perch. It didn't illuminate the phoenix directly, but seemed to mingle with the innate warmth radiating from his quiet form, creating a soft, almost imperceptible halo around his noble head. His deep scarlet and shimmering gold feathers, already rich in color, seemed to absorb this ambient magic, deepening their hues just a fraction, as if the very essence of the castle's ancient slumber was softly settling upon him, undisturbed and profoundly calm. A deep, comforting exhalation, almost silent, rippled through the air around Fawkes. It wasn't a sound, but a subtle, palpable current of warmth, carrying the scent of faint wood smoke and something indescribably ancient and sweet. His chest, with its magnificent plumage, rose and fell with a slow, deep rhythm that mirrored the quiet pulse of the castle itself. This gentle, living warmth was a core of serenity, a protective, soft embrace within the very heart of the office, inviting deeper rest with its steadfast, quiet presence. Deep scarlet and shimmering gold feathers, now subtly enriched by the Pensieve's faint glow, settled even deeper into their comfortable arrangement. Fawkes remained utterly still, a magnificent sculpture of quiet peace, yet within that stillness, a profound warmth pulsed gently, not just from his legendary fire, but from an ancient, serene energy that seemed to breathe softly through him. It was an internal, silent hum, a deep comfort radiating outwards without sound or visible movement, a core of tranquil power at the very heart of the office's slumber. This quiet emanation was so subtle it felt more like a memory of warmth, a lingering echo in the cool, night air, making the space around his perch feel uniquely cherished and safe. The very air seemed to soften, drawing inwards towards this silent, warm core, as if the office itself was settling into a deeper sleep around its guardian. This silent, emanating warmth from Fawkes didn't just hover. It seemed to infuse the very materials around him. His tall, golden perch, usually a stately, static object, now appeared to hold a faint, responsive glow of its own. It wasn't a metallic gleam, but a soft, burnished radiance, as if the gold had absorbed the phoenix's gentle heat and was now reflecting it back into the room. Tiny, almost invisible motes of dust, usually unnoticed, caught this soft, reflected light, appearing for a fleeting moment as miniature, shimmering stars dancing in the still air around the base of the perch, before fading back into the deep shadows. The intricate carvings on the perch's base seemed to deepen, their curves and lines made more pronounced by this gentle, shifting illumination, hinting at the ancient craftsmanship that held such a magnificent creature. The magic wasn't just in Fawkes. It was with him, breathing life into his surroundings. Just a whisper away from the perch, a slender, silver-spun telescope, usually a cold gleam of metal, seemed to catch this transferred warmth. Its highly polished surface, meant for observing distant stars, now reflected the office's quiet magic in miniature. A soft, diffused shimmer rather than a sharp glint. The air around it, too, held a new quality. A slow, almost imperceptible convection current, generated by the gentle heat radiating from Fawkes and his perch, began to stir. It was not a breeze, but a smooth, rising current, carrying with it the faintest, most delicate scent. A hint of aged parchment, a distant echo of wood polish, and the undeniably subtle, comforting aroma of phoenix feathers. This gentle circulation of warm, fragrant air became a soft, invisible embrace, making the entire corner of the office feel like a secure, breathing haven, cradled in profound peace. The magic here was not just seen or felt. It was inhaled, a part of the very breath of the ancient castle. This gentle influence extended beyond the perch itself, reaching out to the grand, claw-footed desk where Dumbledore's work often unfolded. The stacks of aged parchment, usually crisp and cool to the touch, now seemed to possess a subtle, almost imperceptible pliancy, as if the very fibers had softened in the ambient warmth. A magnificent eagle feather quill, resting beside an obsidian inkwell, appeared to shimmer with a deeper luster, its delicate barbs catching the faint, burnished light from Fawkes'S proximity. Even the ink within the well, typically a still, dark pool, seemed to hold a fleeting, internal glimmer, a quiet depth that hinted at dormant magic, stirred awake by the phoenix's serene energy. Each object, however mundane, felt imbued with a fragment of that profound peace, settled into a tranquil slumber of its own. Beyond the desk, the towering bookshelves, guardians of centuries of knowledge, also seemed to respond to the pervasive tranquility. Thousands of leather-bound volumes, usually stoic and silent, now held an almost breathable stillness. The spines, ranging from faded, intricate gold-tooled leather to simpler, sturdy fabric, absorbed the office's gentle glow, each title seeming to deepen in hue, their textures softened by the ambient warmth. A faint, ancient scent of old paper, dried ink, and forgotten spells seemed to waft ever so slightly, a comforting exhalation from the vast repository of wisdom. It was as if the books themselves were breathing slowly in their sleep, their accumulated magic murmuring softly, harmonizing with the profound peace radiating from Fawkes. ensuring their secrets remained safely, warmly nestled. Even the peculiar, whirring instruments that populated Dumbledore's office, usually engaged in their own quiet, complex dances, appeared to have settled into a deeper state of rest. Tiny silver gears, usually in perpetual motion, now paused, catching the ambient light in a delicate, frozen gleam. Orreries, their miniature planets usually tracing slow, meticulous orbits, now hung perfectly still, each celestial body seeming to hold its breath in the quiet, warm air. The very currents within the office, often stirred by the castle's ancient drafts, seemed to have stilled, allowing the subtle, emanating warmth from Fawkes to infuse every corner. It was a profound, almost palpable quiet, where even the air itself felt like a warm, soft blanket, gently draped over the slumbering magic of the room, held in perfect, peaceful suspension by the Phoenix's unwavering serenity.